Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. And Kelly Cook is, of course, with us today. And today this podcast is called Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. So as you can imagine, a lot of the time we talk about selling real estate here. But if you've gone and listened to any of our other episodes, sometimes we kind of bleed into kind of overlapping topics or things that are a little outside of that. We've talked investing. We've talked, for you as an agent, setting up your business and taxes and all of these other things that kind of come along with being a real estate agent and selling real estate. And kind of how you can help your clients as well, being a connector of things and being a trusted advisor in kind of some things beyond just selling a house, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So today is a fun one. We're going to talk about trusts, not trusts, because I got confused when Kelly was like,
Plural.
this is what I want to talk about today. Trusts in the more legal sense. So Kelly, I am excited to talk about this. I think it's something important that probably not a lot of people think about, like just living their day-to-day lives. So let's get into it.
I could not agree more, and this has been on my back of my mind here for a little while because I love this aspect. I love the talk of investing, and this is not really even about investing though. This is a single family house that maybe you own, a condo that you own, any asset that you own, and making sure that you have it titled or protected as such, so that there's all these benefits we'll cover here in just a second. But I think it's important that to have these conversations with your clients. I mean, at the end of the day, we call ourselves real estate advisors. On our team here at Cook & Associates, we really talk about the word advisor because it just sounds different, number one, than realtor. And number two, that's what you should do. You should be advising your clients on how to do a lot of things that you have knowledge of because you're in it every day and they don't. And you'd be surprised how many people have a lot, but has a lot of money and they just don't have a proper trust set up. Again, people I think that trusts are only for the wealthy, and that's not true because yes, they do cost some money. And are there cheap ways to go about doing it? There are, just like there is when you sell your house, right? You want to get a flat fee broker that's going to do nothing for you. It's going to be cheaper. What you get out of it is probably what you're going to pay. So that matters too. So there's costs that are cheaper to do it, but it's not for the wealthy. And you can get a good trust attorney in many states, I believe, to be somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 to $2,500 to do a trust, a living revocable trust. Okay, that is a living document that you have the ability to fund, if you will, with your assets. That's what you should do. That's why you should have it, so that not only do you have some protections with it, but you primarily do it for your loved ones. That's the big thing, and control, and not going through the court system, which is called probate. That's what you don't want. And again, I've been doing this 21 years, guys. And when you do this long enough, as some of you guys watching this podcast or watching the show might be doing it longer than 21 years even. So that there are people out there that have plenty of money, but then you find out something happens to the mom, the dad, the grandma, the grandpa, whatever, and then all of a sudden you realize that they couldn't just pick up the pieces where they left and sell the house because it's tied up in probate. And you're like, well, hold on, how is that possible? They certainly had a trust, right? Or even a will, and the answer is no. A lot of times they don't. So there's some differences between the will and a trust. I won't get into all the nuances because at the end of the day, I'm not a legal expert. You should definitely consult your estate planning attorney. And there are plenty of those attorneys in every single market across America. So I would definitely encourage that. But we can just talk about the general overview. Now, a will typically will give you control to an extent when you pass away. But it's only good when you pass away. And even then, based on what state you're in, potentially there could be some issues from tax ramifications that or benefits that you have with the will, the trust, excuse me, that you don't have with the will. So overall, the trust is just a much better
Simpler,
tool. Yes.
more straightforward. Yeah.
Much better tool. And yes, a little more expensive to set up the initial time, but much better tool to use when it comes to estate planning and your succession when you graduate and go out of this world, right? To a better place. So, so that being said, I just want to have this conversation quickly to make sure people understand, number one, that there are a lot of people out there that don't have a trust. People who are very educated, that are very smart, that have a lot of money and check all those boxes, but still don't have a trust set up. And that's it, and it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Now, when you do have a trust set up, then you want to make sure certain things are funded into the trust. And basically what that basically means is that, let's say all you have right now is a house that you own, that you live in with your family. Okay. Then that should be in the trust. That should be deeded, titled in the trust. In my humble opinion, again, please consult your local estate planning attorney. But in my opinion, that should be in there because it gives you a little bit of protection in terms of control, right? You control it, you own it. If something were to happen, there's no question where the asset goes upon that horrible event that happens, let's say, and you pass away, or someone passes away. So I think that this is important, and people will love you and thank you for that. If there's anyone out there listening that ever inherited some type of an asset and they got it clean because the trust was done, because the person who passed that brought it on to you took the time to do it the correct way, you just have no idea how special that is, how easy that is, how great and thankful you are now that person is no longer with us. It's just the best thing that you could possibly do. Now, other aspects of it, let's say you have stocks, bonds, the investments there. There's certain things like retirement accounts you really don't want to probably have in a trust. You want to have succession into the trust if you pass. But in terms of ownership as you're living, there's certain things where you can get into issues where maybe you can have double taxation and stuff like that, right? So there's certain aspects where retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, even life insurance, you probably don't want to have titled in the trust, but definitely succession into it as a beneficiary if something were to happen and you were to pass away. Real estate is the obvious one because this show is about real estate. And if you are investing and you have more than one property, it's a no-brainer. And then this gets into an asset protection podcast that I would love to do because I've gone through this whole process at I would consider a fairly high level. And would love to, if somebody wants that to happen and wants me to do a podcast on just that, I'd be happy to share that. Let me know maybe in the comments below or hit me up on Instagram for that. But for now, just suffice to say that a trust doesn't provide all the asset protection that other structures would, but it does provide simple control for knowing who gets what, who owns what while you're living and when after you pass away. So,
and can protect your family from, I know that during probate or, a lot of families go through tear each other apart a little bit in a lot of things. So making sure that you're protecting your family for afterward of having a very clear plan. So there's no fighting. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but it does all the time.
I've seen it, and again, if you're a real estate agent listening to this, and you've helped someone, you've been doing this long enough, you're going to help somebody at some point. If you already haven't, sell a property when both scenarios are true. When they sell a property and they did not have a trust, and then now brother and sister are fighting amongst each other, and you're like, and somebody got named, somebody's is the beneficiary, but then you're going through probate, and then you have that you have to have a personal representative assigned, right? It's usually an attorney, and then it's just a big. And then from a tax standpoint, maybe you don't get everything that you should have got. You had to pay some sort of tax on it because of how it was titled before they passed or whatever the case may be, and all these fun things. So yes, it is bad. And then of course, if you've done it, I've done it before where they had a trust, and oh my goodness, it's like, hey, you know what? Who's the signer of this trust? Oh, I am. Okay, great. So you can just sign it. Yes, I'm the representative of the estate, and I can sign. I have the authority to do so. And then you take that trust, you give it to the title company, and boom, they're signing, and it's literally as if the person who owned the property before they passed was still alive. Yeah. Like it's literally as simple and straightforward as that. And man, and people always feel grateful. Yeah, my grandpa, my dad, my mom, whatever they just I'm so glad they did this. I had no idea this even existed, until they passed away or whatever half the time. But I'm so glad they did this, and this is just going to save so much grief that could come up because, one sister is, in a different phase of life than the other brother, and they don't agree on things, and all these things come up, right? It gets messy. So I would highly recommend to talk to your clients about a trust. And the best gift you can give them is not necessarily paying for it. You can always do that, I guess, right? But the best gift you could give them is the conversation and maybe the referral to an estate planner after they purchase the house, and just ask the question, hey, do you want to title this into a trust? And what kind of conversation would that start? Or maybe you have past clients that by just simply doing a simple search with the county records, you can see it's in their personal name and not a trust name. And so you simply call them up.
Reason to restart conversations. Yeah.
Call them up and you just start, checking in like you should be doing anyway, right, with your past clients, and say, hey, Jim, just out of curiosity, do you have by the way, the answer to the question already because you can see it on tax records, right? But do you have your property titled in a trust, out of curiosity? Oh, no, I don't. Okay, then, people get kind of weird sometimes about finances and money talk, right? But again, I heard this quote a long time ago, and it's so true. An advisor is not afraid to talk about money. An advisor is not afraid to talk about money. No different than like your commissions, right? You're selling a house, right? And their principal balance payoff. Well, how much do you owe? How much are paid off? What's your monthly payment? Okay, well, these are the fees, and this is blah, blah, blah. They're not afraid to talk about money. And so when you have that conversation, if you have a decent relationship with them at all, I would bring that up and ask that question to see. And then, hey, we'd like a simple referral to an estate planning attorney.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this before, of just being the connector, going beyond just, hey, I helped you buy and sell a house and we're done, but actually being the connector. So, we can go into a lot more with this. I think we have in the past, but
Yep.
if anybody has any questions about this or any other real estate topic, Kelly, where can they reach you if they do want to hear more about this kind of thing? I know you said you'd love to talk about it, so let us know. Kelly, where can they tell you they want to hear more?
Oh, yeah, this is my jam right here. So, yeah, absolutely. Hit me up on Instagram at Kelly Cook Homes. Give me a follow there. Shoot me a DM, whatever. And I'd be happy to chat with you guys about your specific case one-on-one. Or if you just want a topic to be discussed at more in-depth when it comes to like asset protection.
We would love that. We would love to hear what you all want to hear on this podcast. Because like I said, it is selling real estate, but we go beyond just here's how you sell a house and how you can truly be the best agent for yourself, for your clients, and for your business in the future. So,
Absolutely.
all right, everybody, we'll see you next time. Bye, Kelly.
See you guys.